Welcome to the Dr. Reilly Show. I'm your host, Dr. Reilly. Good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Anissa Reilly, and this is the Ask Dr. Reilly Show. And guess what, everybody? I'm turning 50 today. Can you believe it? I know that some women are not comfortable with sharing their age, but for me, being 50 is a monumentous occasion, and I'm so glad to be able to share it with you. Over the years, I've learned some things. Over the years, I've done some things. Over the years, I've been through some trials and some tribulations. But through it all, I'm here today celebrating 50 years of life, a half a century. Well, that may sound old, but like a friend of mine in my head, Priscilla Shire would say, if you're 50 and you're dying at 50, then you're pretty old. But if you're 50 and you're dying at 100, you're pretty young. So because I'm believing to live a long life, I'm saying I'm 50 and pretty young, and I have a lot to do. So today I'm gonna take you on a journey with me. Take you on a journey through some parts of that 50 years of life, but I'm gonna take you through the journey of love through the 50 years of life. You see, love is what keeps us grounded. Love is the theme for this season, and love is what brought me out, brought me over, and brought me through. So here I am, 50 years later, beautiful and in love and loving you. So, it was a nice day, May 5th, 1972. That's the day that I was born, because it's my birthday, obviously, right? And I was born in a hospital called Park Chester General in the Bronx, BX, New York. The hospital's no longer there, but that is the hospital that I was born in. And I was born to two parents. Well, obviously, of course it had to be two, right? But I was born to two parents that met in college. And from what I was told, they were madly in love. My mom was on a medical track to become a doctor. My father was good with numbers, so he was a mathematician. And he had pledged a fraternity, and so they were in college, in love, and vowed to be together. My dad is originally from Trinidad, and the story that was told to me was that his father, my paternal grandfather, brought him and his brother up from the island to America to start a business, to be in a business, the drug business. And so at the age of 12, my father was brought here by his dad to be in his drug business. And because my father was good with numbers and a good mathematician, you put one and one together, and he was really, really good at it. So much so that by the time he met my mom, he would be considered what today we call a kingpin. So my dad was a drug kingpin, and my mom was in college and in love with a drug kingpin. But he led that double life. So he was in college, doing great, doing wonderful, and then on the other side of that, my dad was a drug dealer. Nevertheless, they were in love. Now that's like so many of us women out here, we get ourselves hooked up with some bad boys, bad or just ambitious men. And we find ourselves in some precarious situations because love, when it attacks your heart, it does what it does. And so my mom was in love with a man who was dealing drugs. Bars. Anyhow, so as their love progressed and my mom became pregnant with me, it came a point where my mom was like, hey, I think you need to kind of think about making some changes. We have a child on the way, and this is not a life that is sustainable. And so my father, according to what was told to me, had agreed He was going to make one last big move in the drug game, one big move in the drug game. So he had plans and he had plans and he had planned, and I was born. And when I turned 6 months is when he put his plan into action. And he flew out to the West Coast, to California, did his one big last move, came back to New York, but unfortunately, that one move turned into him succumbing to the life that it only leads to, and that's death. So they say when you're in that game, you're either gonna wind up in jail or you're dead. And unfortunately for my dad, he ended up on the road to death. Here was my mom with a 6-month-old baby. The love of her life was murdered. What was she going to do? Now, I know for some of you, you may think, wow, that's kind of sad. And it is. And that sadness from my mom, in my opinion, turned into depression. A serious, serious, deep depression that she expressed in physical and mental abuse of me as a child. Now, do I excuse what she did? Heck no, because it was horrible. But as I'm growing older, I kind of understand that when people go through stuff, especially traumas of that magnitude, because what I didn't share with you is that my father was killed execution style. So for those of you who aren't aware, my father was bound on his knees and he was shot in the back of his head. Now I read the death report, so that part of the story I can confirm. But imagine the love of your life, the person who you have declared that you were going to live forever with, is suddenly murdered, and now you're left alone with this baby. Back then in the 70s, getting mental health therapy wasn't really a big thing, because in our culture, you don't go to therapy or else you're considered crazy. And so, as much as I'm sure my mom didn't want to fall into this deep depression, she did, and I'm sure as much as she may not have wanted to express it in harmful ways, she did. And unfortunately, I became the object of her depression, her anxieties. I became the object of all of the things that were negative in her life. I reminded her of my dad. I reminded her of her lost love. And in some ways, I reminded her of her missed opportunity to become a doctor, because she made the decision to quit school, to raise her daughter, and we moved to Baltimore. Now that's a choice that she made. Not everybody makes that choice, but that's a choice that she made. And whether she realized it or not, it did continue her downward spiral and her downward expressions of harmfulness in the form of physical and mental abuse. So her love was lost, and her love expressed was harmful. And so for me, my first understanding of love was through those traumatic lenses. For me, my first experience of love was through those harmful lenses. And to be honest, it left a huge hole in my heart and created a whole bunch of anxiety that I had to deal with and have dealt with over the years. Now, that hole in my heart that was planted there by understanding love is connected to hurt, trauma, and pain, planted a seed in my heart that grounded me in this need to want to be loved, but attached to some type of earning it, some type of pain, some type of it had to be crazy in order for it to be love. Now I know some of you probably are saying, That doesn't sound right. Or maybe some of you are saying, that sounds oh too familiar. Or maybe some of you are saying, I didn't realize it, but I'm in the exact same situation. And thank you, Dr. Reilly, for giving me the language that paints the picture of what's been happening in my heart. So let's fast forward to a teenage love. Yes, a teenage love. My first love, I was a teenager. And he was the ghetto superstar. Y'all know that song, Ghetto Superstar, that is what you are. Oh, I hope that hit those notes properly. But he was a ghetto superstar. He was the, how can I say it? If you saw him on the block, everybody was like, oh, there he goes. And for me to be his girl, for me to be on his arm was status unbelievable, status undeniable, because at home I was experiencing this pain, but on the street I was getting this glory and this attention because of whose arm I was on. But yeah, he was a drug dealer too. Big time drug dealer. People really didn't know it, but if you were in the game, you knew it. And he would fly out of town, he would come back, and he would outfit me. He would purchase me things, he would spend money, he would give attention. And so why wouldn't I want to be with him? But after some time, people who are in that space and in that place, you know, he became extremely possessive, and he became extremely territorial, and he became extremely controlling. There were places that I couldn't go, things I couldn't do, places I couldn't be. And if I was there, it was a big scene. So you may be wondering, why did I stay? That to this day still is unanswered. But all I can say is that the love and how I understood it was wrapped up in that craziness, in that cycle that he and I were in. He would tell me no, and I would go, what? He would tell me yes, and I'll be like, no. But because that cycle was familiar, because I understood it from home, when I was with him, I was in love. But that love soon became even more toxic, to the point where we wound up finding ourselves in a major, major fight where not only was I trying to hurt him, but it got to a place where, unfortunately, he was trying to kill me. Yes, I said it. He was trying to kill me. You may say, how was he trying to kill you? Well, when my book comes out, you can read the whole story. However, many domestic violence situations, when you are in them for a long time, or even sometimes a short time, unfortunately, the tragedy is that the end of the story is that someone dies. More times than not, it's the woman, and I am just thankful that that wasn't my story. However, we were trending towards that. We were moving towards that this day. And it's only because of the love of God in that moment that my daughter screamed out my name, and it snatched me back from wherever I was going, and I was able to have a clear head and get us out of that situation in that moment. Talking about my daughter in that situation is something that I've learned, that when you're going through trauma, it's important that you take a breath and recognize how your children are being affected. I didn't know any better at that time. All I knew was to keep moving. And because my daughter had a first-hand account of what was happening, it has landed on her in such a way that it has impacted her to this day. But thanks be to God, there is therapy. Thanks be to God, I'm fully aware and I know how to pray. But thanks be to God, we had an opportunity to heal and reconcile by me apologizing to her for not providing the emotional safety that she needed. Physical safety, yeah, but emotional safety that she needed. When you learn different things, you know to do different things. And because I love my daughter very much, I want her to know that I'm doing better and I'm here for you. And I'm 50 and we get to do it together. I'll take a breath because your children are your legacy. And when we talk about breaking generational curses, sometimes I believe that generational curses come from the fact that the generation before you failed or didn't really do what they needed to do to gain more knowledge so that they can change and they can learn something different. They didn't do anything to transform their mind or transform their thinking. Or maybe they were just so caught up in the traditions that they'll say, this is the way we've always done it, this is the way we're gonna do it. But that is not yielding any results. So generational curses, I believe, can be broken, yes, with prayer and with divine guidance, but more so with knowledge, more so with people really wanting to do better, and more so with a strategic plan. And so putting those two together, breaking generational curses. And that's love. Love sometimes is painful. Love sometimes is joyous. But because I refused for my children to go through it again, because I refuse for my children's children and my ancestors that I'm not gonna see or haven't seen me, or my future generations that will never see me, will not experience what I experienced or have experienced, that I declared that it was gonna be no more. And I did my work. And I'm happy to say, fast forward, that love, healthy love, found me in the person of Gordon Reilly Jr. Now, I say that it's healthy because I realized that at a point where I did have a type, right? My type was 6'2", dark skin, athletic, bald head, but my type wasn't healthy for me. So my type wasn't right for me. And when I decided to realize that I needed to give that up because something wasn't working, because all the unhealthy love was finding me in places and spaces where I didn't want to be because of my type, that I said, I'm going to forego my type. Some of us, will say, I'm going to date outside my race. Some of us are going to say, I found a connection with the same sex. Some of us have been through so much trauma that we want to go to the extremes. But you don't necessarily have to go to the extremes to get to a place of normalcy, to get to a place of settledness, to get to a place of peace, to get to the place where you know you deserve to be and you experience in your heart. So by me giving up my type, the healthy love found me. Now, is he 6'2"? Not. Is he dark skinned? Not. Is he athletic? Check. Can he play ball? Check, check. And he's gentle, he's kind, he's loving, and his heart is big enough to not only hold me, but hold all of the trauma and the baggage and all of the hurt and all of the pain that oftentimes, but not so much now these days, will bubble up to the surface or will be triggered because something happened. You know, there's something to be said about a man who knows who he is, who knows what he wants, and knows how to truly love a woman. The Bible talks about a man taking care of his woman, you know, protecting her, loving her, washing her with the word. And it's those men who understand their place that help bring women as myself to fully blossom. And that's what happened. You see it, right? You see it all. You see it all. See it all. And so in that love, I'm able to not only fulfill my purpose. In that love, I'm not only to sit here and tell my story in such a way that no longer hurts, but helps to minister. In that love, I'm able to take everything, leverage all of my pain, leverage all of my trauma, leverage it all, and bring it here, lay it before you, so that you can know that you too can be triumphant in trauma. Carl Jung put this archetype out called the wounded healer. And when I learned about the wounded healer, it resonated with me so much so that I can claim and say to myself and say to you all that yes, I am a wounded healer. Meaning that I've been wounded in so many ways, wounded in so many areas, but those wounds have not damaged me. Those wounds have not stopped me, but those wounds I've taken and I'm now using them to heal you, to heal those you may know, to heal those that God has counted a privilege to bring into my circle of influence. So no more shame, no more pain, just simply freedom. I'm simply freely giving of my experiences, simply freely talking about what it is that I've been through, freely talking about my journey from beginning where it was grounded in a travesty and a tragic incident to where I am now. You know, I talk about anxiety, and I remember when my daughters were born, I had these anxious feelings that I was going to have to raise them on their own because what happened to me with my father's death was going to happen to them, and they were going to lose their father. How silly is that? But how real is it at the same time? And there have been many moments throughout my life where anxiety has popped up its little head based on all of the traumas. But here I am at 50, understanding that all that is, all those thoughts are just remnants of the past trying to take control of my future. And I've learned at 50, no more. I've learned at 50 that I'm in charge, so no more. I've learned at 50 that what has happened in the past will not only stay in the past, but it has shaped me, molded me, and brought me to today. Without those stories, without those traumas, there would not be an Ask Dr. Reilly show. Because what could you ask me? But now, you can ask me about abuse. I have a response. You can ask me about domestic violence. I have a response. You can ask me about rape, molestation, alcoholism, sexuality, suicide. You can ask me about it all, and I have an answer. I'm not gloating in it, but what I am saying to you is you have a friend, you have someone who doesn't understand the theology of it or the theory of it, but someone who understands it because someone has gone through it and has come out on the other side. And I will say to you that it's because of this final love that I want to share with you, which is the love of Christ. Without that love, those parts of my soul wouldn't have been healed. Because when we talk about creation and we talk about who created us, it's important to go back to the one who designed it all. So in my journey of trying to fix it myself, trying to find love here, trying to do it my way, I was messing up because I didn't create myself. I didn't design myself. I didn't even know why I was here. I thought I did, because you know what? You only live once. It's my life, my life, my life. I could do with it what I want. But I didn't give myself life. I didn't give myself breath. So how can I say that with true honesty? So in my journey, walking closer to God, walking closer to Christ, walking closer to the love that created me, not only did it heal my soul, but it took those dark places that all of that past was trapped in. It took all of that trauma, which I had suppressed and pressed down in my heart. It healed it. There's a saying in the Bible, the balm of Gilead. So if you know anything about balm, it's like a salve and it helps wounds. So yeah, the balm of Gilead put some of that sweet divine salve on those spiritual, soul hurting wounds. And now, he said, go out and share. Because people see scars and they ask, well, what happened? Versus a wound where they're like, oh my gosh. But my scars are here for you. My scars are healed because of him. And I'm 50, and I'm fabulous, and I'm fit. So thank you for joining me on this 50th celebration. And as I start this next chapter of the second part of my life, it's gonna be fabulous. Because all of that stuff is no more. And now I'm living and loving and laughing all the time because of love, love, love. I love you all. I hope you enjoyed this 50th birthday special. Please make sure that you tweet it, you share it, you send it. Make sure that you let someone know that you love them, because you never know what someone is going through. And I also challenge you. I challenge you all to take one part of your life that may seem hurtful, that may seem dark, work on healing it, and then begin to share and watch that domino effect that will not only affect you, but affect others. You never know with just sharing with one person what it will do. So, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you haven't purchased any of our shirts, please make sure you purchase our shirts. If you haven't read my book, read my book. And if you need a mug, buy that too. And the reason why I'm saying that is because it'll help me continue to share this message. It'll help me continue to leverage all of my pain, leverage all of my trauma, and reach millions and millions of people who need to hear a story from someone who is a wounded healer. But can all of my wounded healers please stand up? If you're a wounded healer, put it underneath. If you want to get in contact with me, go over to my website. It should be there. But most importantly, remember that love, love, love is what this world needs, what you need, and it's definitely what I needed, and that's why I'm here. And with that, everyone, my name is Dr. Anissa Reilly, and this is the 50th birthday special of the Ask Dr. Reilly Show. Peace.